Okay, so this is the second video where we will look at some other stuff. Let's start with tan. Okay, so remember I told you to just do y over x. Y is the sine theta, x is cos theta, sine over cos, y over x is tangent theta, right? So see, as y increases, because y over x, as y increases, as sine theta increases, as theta increases, the tangent increases. So tangent is increasing as angle is increasing. So square root over 3 is the highest value there. So what is that angle? It is pi by 3, right? So that is pi by 3. Or tangent, tangent 0, where is 0? Where sine is 0, because sine over cos. If sine is 0, which is 0 angle, so that angle is equal to 0, tangent is 0. Right? So we are converting again what we are converting from value to the angle. Value is square root over 3, angle is pi over 3. Value is 0, angle is 0. Okay? Our tangent square root 3 over 3, what is it? This one, 1 over square root of 3. Okay? So that is what? That is the lowest angle, right? Pi over 3, right? But it's negative, so it's negative pi over 3. Right, because an odd function, so it goes negative here, sine goes negative, and also tan goes negative here on this negative angle. So what about tan inverse of -1? Okay, guess what? It's 1 at 45 degrees because sine and cosine are the same. So minus pi by 4, right? Because negative is negative on the negative angle. So now let's add the sketch of, so what happens? So y is equal to arc cos inverse x. Y is equal to cos inverse x is this. Goes from -1 to 1 on x-axis and 0 to 2 pi on y-axis. What happens when we replace x with 2x? One way to think about it, when you convert it over here, x becomes here. X becomes half cos y. So is half of all, if normally if it was only cos y, we're now gonna get all the things half. So x is gonna be always half. So now instead of x going from -1 to 1, in case of cosine here, what we're talking about, -1 to 1, x is gonna go minus half to half, right? So always remember, when you replace x by 2x, you basically shrink it on x-axis, right? Just like when you do x plus d, you move to the negative side. When you do x, replace x by x plus d, you move into the right side. When you do 2x, you are basically shrinking on the x-axis. So that's what happened here. Okay. Now, this is one of the examples. So you got it? That's all you gotta do. You take this graph, 0 to pi on y, still 0 to pi on y. On x, instead of -1 to 1, it is minus half to half because we scaled. We multiplied x with 2, that means we shrink it on x-axis. Okay, now let's see another question. This question is about having the values, 32, all these values, and calculating the angle. What do we do? Inverse, right? So what we got y and x. So when we have y and x, we need to use tangent. So tangent 32 over d, or in this case, okay, let's see. We need to calculate this angle, which is a difference of, we need to calculate, we are looking at the screen, sitting this guy here, sitting at the theater screen, and need to take the angle, view angle of the theater screen, which is the difference between, this is the horizontal line. Always look for horizontal line in a triangle. So the total angle is theta 2. We have to minus theta 1 from here. That is the difference between his eyes, either her eyes, and the bottom of the screen. This angle we have to minus, which is theta 2, which is theta 1 from theta 2. So we need to calculate this angle. which is the difference of theta 2 minus theta 1. So what is theta 2? Theta 2 is simple. It is tan inverse of, in this case I think it's 4. So 32 plus 4 is 36 on y, and x is d. So it is 36 divided by d is equal to tan theta 2, or theta 2 angle is equal to tan inverse. Converting a value 36 divided by d into an angle, right? So arctan 36 divided by 2 minus arctan 4 by d, 4 divided by d. That is this angle, theta 1, right? So we are converting, we have the value 4 over d, and we are converting that value to the angle using arctan. So this is the angle, the difference between these two angles, theta 2 and theta 1, is the angle that we need for the screen. That's all it has. And then you, because the variable is here, you have to actually plot it to get the point where is the highest value. And you can notice that when you are close to the screen, the angle changes really fast, right? When you go a little bit farther, it changes slow. So it's better to be a little bit farther, like if screen is 36 high, it's better to be close to 20 feet or more so that you can have a better viewing angle. So in this case it was 12. I think they calculated and came out to be 12, but as long as you're between somewhere 12 and 20, you should be fine. So here is another question for the same thing. We got screens 2.5 feet, bottom is 3.5, and I think they're gonna be somewhere, eyes is gonna be somewhere in the middle here, maybe here, right? And then you do the same thing, you have to do the same thing, calculate two angles and take a difference and plot it. So do this example, this is in your book. Okay, so that was just one example, practical example where you have the values and you're trying to find the angles. Now let's go to a different topic, which is if we have, well, we are calculating sine inverse and then again sine, or tan and then tan inverse, so sine and then arc sine. You see what is happening here? The same function is doing one time inverse, one time actual function, right? So what we're trying to find is that what is the answer? Is the answer the same or different, right? So sine inverse minus 1 over 4, is it okay? Is that value okay? It is between 1 and minus 1 value. When we're taking sine inverse, we need a value, not an angle. We need a value between 1 and minus 1, so it is fine. So when we take the inverse and then take sine again, we're gonna get minus 1 over 4. Arctan 10 pi over t. What is 10 pi over 2? Was there something infinity? Remember we said pi over 2 was not even, see there's no equal sign here for tan. There's an equal sign for both sine and cosine. There's no equal sign because that pi by 2 is not defined, it's infinity. Minus pi by 2 is not defined, tangent is not defined, it is infinity at those 2 points. See, not equal sign is not included here. So that's why not defined. Tangent pi over 2. Arc sine of sine 3 7 pi by 4. So sine 7 pi by 4 is fine. It is just the same as pi by 4, whatever it is. 7 pi by 4 is the same as minus pi by 4, right? So I think it's going to be minus pi by 4, right? So now let's go to what is happening here. Tan inverse pi by 3. Is that good? Is the value, remember, taking inverse, it has to be a value. Is 3 point something the value divided by 3 is more than 1, not defined. Okay, you gotta be smart. Don't think it's an angle, it's a value when you're taking tan inverse. Don't think it's an angle. Cos of 3 pi by 4, okay? So where we are here, 3 pi by 4. here, right, is fine. Cosine is 0 to pi by 2, so we are fine here, right? So it is going to be 3 pi by 4. Arc sine 2 pi over 3. Sine 2 pi over 3. Where is sine 2 pi over 3? 2 pi over 3, right, is going to be the same as sine. Sine is negative here. Sine is positive here, right? So you're going to take a value which is positive for sine, which is going to be pi over 3, okay? Same value here, right? Same y component. So it's going to be pi over 3. When you're taking sine, is okay if angle is higher, okay? Pi over 3. Only when you're taking inverse, it has to be between 0 and minus 1 and 1 for sine and cosine, okay? It has to be between 0 and minus 1 and 1 for sine and cosine when you're taking inverse, okay? But when you're taking normal function, it is okay. Angle can be anything. Okay, now let's go to this interesting part. What is happening here? Here we have a tan inverse and then we have cosine, two different functions. What's going on here, okay? All right, it's not hard. What is happening here is they're telling me to give me a value. From this value, I can find an angle, okay? And then take the cosine. Because we are converting a value to an angle to another value in a triangle, I don't have to worry about the intermediate angle. I can write the algebraic function to do that. So tan inverse of 3 over 4. So what is tan? Tan of an angle. So if this is the angle, if these are the two values, I'm gonna get this angle. Tan of this angle, let's think differently. Tan of this angle is gonna be 3 over 4. Okay, so tan of u is gonna be 3 over 4. That means 3 over 4. If you draw this triangle, you just have to be smart enough to know this 3, 4, 5 triangle, right? 3, 4, 5, right? Y over x. Y is 3, x is 4. It's gonna be equal to tan arctan u, right? That's all. You got the triangle. You got the angle, right? Now the cosine of this angle is simple. So cosine of this angle, this is the angle we're talking about, right? Because we converted, this is the angle we're talking about. This is the angle in my weird circle. The angle came from 3 and 4 sides, right? And the cosine of that angle is gonna be what? Cosine is what? 4 over 5. You got it. Base over radius, right? So cosine is gonna be cosine of whatever that angle was. You can write the whole expression. The answer is 4 over 5. That's all. That's all you gotta know. Okay? And if you have something else in between, you can do that too. So you can do this pi over 3, sine pi over 3. That sine of pi over 3 is, what is this? This is the theta, right? Theta is telling us what? Theta is telling us what? It's telling us that it's 30 degrees. So when we take cos inverse of this, what are we gonna be the answer of 30 degrees? Right? Of a triangle that has 30 degrees, we're gonna get a number sine of a ratio, and then we're going to take cos inverse of that, right? So it's going to be cos inverse of I think we're gonna calculate that one. But you just gotta calculate the value and then take the cos inverse. Pi by 3 is 60, so sine is gonna be, I think, square root 3 over 2. And then when you take cos inverse, you take 3 over 2. And when you take cos inverse, it's gonna become 60, right? Or pi by 6. So remember, it was 60 is gonna become 30. So when you convert from sine to cos, you know that the angle changes 90 minus theta. So it's going to be 90 minus pi by 3, right? So now our arc 10 is 5 over 12. This is another triangle they are giving you. Y is 5, x is 12. It is 5, 12, 13 triangle, right? And the sine of that triangle is 5 over 13. This y is going to remain the same. And instead of x is going to be now the radius. So it is 5, 12, 13 triangle, and sine value of angle is 5 over 13. And you can try. So here they just give you an A, right? So this is arc sine A. So what is it? A value they gave you of the sine theta. A over 1, right? A over 1, that is your sine theta or sine u. You can call it whatever you want. Call it u or theta, it doesn't matter. A over 1, that is your triangle. When you take tangent of that, it is A over, what is here? 1 square minus A square square root, right? It's going to be equal to A over 1 square minus A square let's write it better. So you're going to take square root. So here our value will be, here our value is square root 1 minus A square, right? That is our tan. A over square root 1 minus A square. That's all it is. You just gotta, when you moving from here to here, you just gotta draw a triangle and you will be fine. Triangle could have a hypotenuse, it's like just like a unit circle. It could have a unit 1, or they can scale it, doesn't matter. Like here, this scale, it doesn't matter. You could still divide here, for example. You could still divide everything by 5, and you're gonna have a unit circle here. But in trigonometry, angles, ratios, sine and cosine, those are always ratios, and the radius length doesn't matter for those ratios. But don't worry, just draw. When you have 3, 4, 5 triangle, just draw 3, 4, 5. Okay, you don't have to worry about unit circle. Okay. But the values don't change. Sine and cosine values don't change as long as ratio remains the same. So I think that was it for this thing. I'm gonna do a little bit recap. We did this unit circle. We calculated from value to the angle for different things. We said sine is gonna be, and tangent is gonna be minus pi by 2 to pi. Tangent is not gonna include minus pi by 2 or pi because it's not defined, is infinite. For cosine is gonna be 0 to pi. Sine and cosine move between 0, minus 1 and 1, and tangent moves from minus infinity to infinite. You can do y over x to find the tangent values, and on the other side too, tangent is on the right angle side, sine is also right side, and cosine is on the top side of the circle. These angles, right negative angles, okay, on this side. What else we did? We said, oh, when you scale it, multiply with anything with x, you're gonna, if you with number more than 1, you're gonna shrink it. If you divide it a number more than 1, you're gonna expand it, right? is gonna stay from 0 to pi always, the y-axis, but you can scale y-axis too if you wanted to. Okay, so but you have to be careful when you scale y-axis. Okay. This one we just use the values to calculate the angle. In this case it was the tangent, so we use arctan. Then we had an equation that we could only solve plot by calculator to find the difference. Here we looked at inverses and saw if this makes sense. If this makes sense, let's see. If this makes sense, right, is not infinite or something, then we get the same answer. Here, when it was different, we said, okay, we're gonna calculate something. You know, if we can draw the triangle, we can calculate the other part easily, right? The other part that we have been doing before was just the calculating the values with the inverse. So that's all we did. All right, have fun. Bye bye.